Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, week 14 of the college football season is over. Week 13 of the NFL season is over. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we continue to dig in all things from the Saturday and Sunday game. The calendar is now flipped to December. We are honing in on championship week for college football, then the college football playoffs, and all the excitement and fun games that come with that. We are down to the final month plus of the NFL season, the home stretch of that. And it is fun and exciting. The NFL is more wide open than I think it has ever been in my life as a football fan. So it should be a great conclusion to both the college football and the NFL seasons over the next 2 months. Let's jump right into it with the NFL Draft Report for Week 14, talking about the biggest storylines from the offensive skill player prospects in terms of their 2026 NFL draft stock and their draft capital, where things stand right now. Let's start at the quarterback position. I think the big thing to talk about right now is Dante Moore out of Oregon. His offensive coordinator is gone, taking a head coaching job. I know the buzz in the middle of the year was that he was going back to school, but I just don't see a scenario where that might be realistic anymore. This past week, 266 yards and a touchdown. But in this year's draft class, with how few quarterbacks are going to be at the top of the draft, I think if he comes out, he's a top 5 pick. He could be a top 2 pick. It's possible he could be the number 1 overall pick. It is hard to go back to school when you know that that is in the realm of possibilities. What if the next year he doesn't vibe with the offensive coordinator? What if he has a down year? What if he gets hurt? There's a lot of things in play. And I understand the NIL money has changed the narrative on players don't need to come out for that aspect. But at the same time, I'm not sure there's any reason for him to go back to school except to continue to harness his skills when he's already looked at, I think, as a lock top 5, top 10 pick with the potential to be a top 2 pick. Obviously, it depends on who gets those picks. If teams like the Giants or the Titans are sitting there, we're probably talking a trade. Who's willing to come up to go get Mendoza or Dante Moore? But I just think the writing is on the wall where I think this is going to start to turn the other way. And we're going to start hearing the buzz that he is going to declare. And I think it probably is the right decision for him. I'm never going to knock a kid for going back to school. I'm never going to knock a kid for declaring. Every kid's situation is different. But I do think in this scenario, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to come out. Your goal as a college quarterback is to be taken in the top 5, top 10. Means you have the full belief of that NFL team. He's going to get that if he comes out. I don't see anywhere for his stock to go but down. So for me, I do think he's going to come out. I do think he's going to ride the momentum of this year. A guy who was not in anybody's round 1 early mock drafts last April after the 2025 NFL draft. He's got an opportunity now to go really high in the 2026 NFL draft. I think he's going to seize that opportunity. The other guy in contention with him is Fernando Mendoza. Light work for Mendoza this past weekend. Only needed to go 8 of 15, 117 yards and 2 touchdowns for an easy win for Indiana. I think Mendoza, it's going to be really exciting to see Indiana down the final stretch of this college football season. How does Mendoza look in some big spots? Do we see him to continue to shine and then maybe separate himself from Dante Moore? Or does he have a slip up and maybe it makes them even closer? I think it could already be a 1A, 1B for some teams. So I think his finish to the year is going to be fun to kind of see how he finishes off this amazing year. Maybe he's the Heisman winner. We'll see. But how he performs against better level competition is something I'm looking forward to seeing and seeing how that translates to what the NFL evaluators. I already think he's a lock top 5 too. Does a team make an aggressive, bold move up to make sure they beat out all those other teams in the mix and get to where the Titans or the Giants are probably picking? Or can they stay back and he could fall into their lap and they don't have to give up additional assets to move up? I think that's going to be very hard in a quarterback class. It's probably only going to have 2 at the top, maybe 3, but I think 2 in the top 5 mix. So I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see how aggressive teams are to go up and get Mendoza, to go up and get more if those are the guys at the top of the draft. Arch Manning this past week, Texas with a big win. He was pedestrian, 14 of 29, 179 yards and 1 touchdown. But again, there continues to be this buzz of what would happen to Arch if he did declare, surprisingly. And I still think he would be right in the mix to be the first quarterback taken, a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick. I think some people would look at it as, yeah, maybe he's not ready yet. Maybe Mendoza's more ready right now. But if we were saying long range, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, who has the higher ceiling, I think a lot of teams would still gravitate towards Arch Manning. And whether that's just the tools, whether that's the pedigree, whether that's the last name, I think it's a viable question. I don't think it's going to happen because I do think he is in even a more unique situation than most of these athletes. So I do think he is going to go back. He's got it's kind of in the DNA. Peyton went back. Eli went back. I do expect Arch to go back and then try to position himself to be the clear first pick in the 2027 NFL draft. And then the other guy, Ty Simpson, I feel like it's been a little bit of a up and down roller coaster with him. He kind of was looked at as a day 3 type talent. And then we started to see this ride up where, you know what, now he's a round 2 guy. Now he's a round 1 guy. Then there were people saying he might be the best quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft. And now I feel like we're starting to come back down the other way. You don't hear a lot of buzz anymore about him maybe being in position to be QB1. That's Mendoza. That's Moore. Now I feel like we're starting to go back down the roller coaster a little bit. He's still looked at as some by maybe being a first round pick, but I think it's more latter in the top 10 or in the teens somewhere. A team takes a chance on him. So to me, he rode the wave up from day 3 to day 2 to first round to top 5. And now we're going back down a little bit. And it's more of now, I think he's a round 1 guy still because I think a team's going to sell themselves on the intangibles he offers. He'd be one of those guys that I'd be a little leery of. I was leery of Mac Jones coming out as a round 1 guy. I was leery of Daniel Jones coming out. I was very leery of Kenny Pickett coming out. I think Ty Simpson is a little better than those guys, but I don't think there's this big separation. I think he's more in that bucket than the other one. I think his physical traits are more in line with those guys. I think what he's been asked to do is more in line with what those guys were asked to do in college. So I think there's definitely some risk with him. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where his stock falls. I think his stock could very much be tied to how does Alabama look down the stretch of this season? What opportunities does he have to maybe solidify his status as a round 1 guy, as a top 10, top 15 type guy? I think we will see that over the coming weeks here to close out the college football season. If we take this to the running back position, Kaytron Allen, 226 yards and 1 touchdown. His running mate there, Nicholas Singleton, 9 carries, 86 yards. You like to see some of that big playability, which is what Singleton offers. He's a home run hitter, big time acceleration and burst and speed. Not really great in terms of vision, patience, the natural run instincts. But Kaytron Allen's going to be one of those guys. He's going to go somewhere between round 4 and round 6, and he's going to be an interior, physical, no-nonsense runner between the tackles. So if that is what you're looking for in a day 3 running back, you are going to find it with Kaytron Allen. Kind of like how the Bears took Kyle Monangai in round 7. I think that was because it was such a deep class. I think in a normal year, Monangai would have probably been a round 5 guy. I think Kaytron Allen's going to be like a round 5 guy. And I think he could be that guy very much like Monangai, physical, inside runner, power running scheme, and he could be effective as in part of a committee. So I think Kaytron Allen is going to be one of those guys that if a team's looking for a particular type of runner, Allen could offer that a lot somewhere on day 3. His teammate, Nicholas Singleton, I mentioned he had a couple big plays to get 9 carries for 86 yards. I still think he's going to be another guy. No, I think top 100, I think, is out of the mix, but he offers big playability. He's got that juice. He's got that acceleration. He could be a receiver out of the backfield. I think he'll be another guy somewhere rounds 4, rounds 5, round 6, somewhere on day 3 because of his athleticism, his pedigree. He's a big play waiting to happen, even though some of the other stuff, again, he's one of those guys where you wish he could put it all together. And if he could put it all together, he would have been a top 50 pick, but he's just never put it together in terms of the run instincts, the natural run concepts, understanding, his blockers, the vision, the patience. We just haven't seen that ever fully develop. So he's going more on his physical and athletic traits, which are high-end traits, which is going to make a team believe that maybe they can get a little more out of him. And if not, he could be, a change of pace, that speed back, complementing somebody else in the backfield. So I do think he'll be drafted somewhere in that round 4 to round 6 range. Jam Miller of Alabama, 15 carries, 83 yards. He's another guy in that round 4, round 6. That's where most of these running backs are going to live. And then the one guy I wanted to bring up is Jonah Coleman, because I feel like there's been a lot of buzz with Jonah Coleman, but he's really fallen off over the last couple of weeks. In his last 3 games, 9 carries, 20 yards, 4 carries, 6 yards, 5 carries, 2 yards. Before that, he had 14 for 75, 16 for 50. They're using a lot of other people in the backfield and giving them more looks than Jonah Coleman. I don't know how that level of production, and again, production is a small part of it. And if anyone's been a long-time listener to Saturday, Sunday, I don't really care that much about college stats because I don't think the NFL does either. It's a traits-based evaluation in terms of what, but if he was so far superior of his other talents in the backfield, in the running back depth chart, he'd be getting the work of it. He'd be getting the bulk of the work in college. That's just the reality of it. So I do think it does speak volumes that for a while you thought maybe he could be a top 3, top 5 back in this class. I have a hard time thinking he's going to be a top 3 to top 5 back in this class when he can't even be the lead guy there for Washington, and they're using a whole bunch of other running backs and giving them more looks than Coleman. So I think right now, stock down a little bit. I would put him in that mix there with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton as day 3 type talents at the running back position. If we take this to the pass catchers this past week, one tight end I haven't brought up in a while is Jack Endres out of Texas. 4 catches, 93 yards. He doesn't have any standout physical traits, but he's pretty solid across the board. That you look at a guy like him and somewhere round 4, round 5, round 6. I talk about a lot of guys in that round 4 to round 6 range. I think Endres could be a guy that a team's looking for, a guy who is a functional blocker, solid pass catcher, could be a tight end 2, tight end 3 on a team and maybe work his way up the depth chart. I think that would be Endres in this draft class, somewhere on that day 3 spectrum. If we take this to the wide receivers, and they haven't talked about it in a while, I wanted to bring him up. Not that his stats were gaudy this week, but Deion Burks had 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. I was a huge Burks guy 2 summers ago. Then he got injured, missed all of last year. When I rewatched him in the summer, still liked his game. He had some good weeks to start out the year. Then it's been kind of inconsistent up and down. But I keep coming back to the fact is guys like Burks have translated really well. Space, guys who create space, good separation quickness, good route runner. I see no reason why a guy like Deion Burks can't be somewhere in the Wan'Dale Robinson to Josh Downs type spectrum. And we've seen both of those guys. Wan'Dale Robinson's having his best career year. We've seen Josh Downs have really productive. I see a scenario where Deion Burks can get drafted somewhere round 3 to round 4 and have a similar NFL career to what we've seen from Wan'Dale Robinson or Josh Downs so far, even early in their careers. So I'm still a fan of Deion Burks, and I think he could be an interesting selection somewhere in round 3 or round 4 of the NFL season. Dane Brugler just came out with his first mock draft of the 2026 NFL draft, and one thing that popped out right away, he had Carnell Tate as his number 1 wide receiver, going number 4 overall to the Giants. This past week, 5 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Tate is one of those guys that I questioned last summer whether or not he would be a high-end prospect because I just didn't know if he had the complete package, the route running, the ball skill. I knew he had the ball skills. I knew he had the ability to adjust. I knew he had the ability to high point. He won contested catches. What I've seen more from this year that I didn't see as much last summer on the film was a more diverse route tree, better separator, more short area quickness. I don't think he's going to be a blazer. I think if he runs the 40, it's going to be somewhere in that 4.5 to 4.54 range. That's just what I think. But he's play speeds faster. He runs good routes. He could run a variety of routes. He's got late speed to create late separation. He can win at all 3 levels of the field. And I think in this class, that makes him a very high-end prospect with the Jordan Tyson, with the Mekhi Lemon as possibly the top 3 wide receivers in this draft class. Elijah Sarrett, 3 catches, 41 yards, and 1 touchdown. Listen, I think he's more of a round 3 guy because I do have questions about whether he can separate, but he's a red zone weapon, great ball skills, great body control, shows the ability to adjust. He's been Mendoza's best receiver this year. And then 2 other guys who I think stock is still climbing on. Chris Brazell out of Tennessee and Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. Branch this past week, 53 yards and a touchdown. You also got to take into account he is an explosive playmaker with the ball in his hands and as a return guy. That is going to increase his stock because you can use him in a variety of ways. Every team is looking for playmakers. Zachariah Branch offers that game-breaking ability. Anytime he touches the ball, you can manufacture a few touches on him. He could be your punt returner, and then he could also he could be a vertical slot as well. So I think Branch is probably not getting out of the top 50, top 60 picks because of that offensive game-breaking ability that he offers. And then if you're looking for an explosive playmaker vertically down the field, Brazell, 6 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown every single week for the last few weeks. Maybe even the last like 5 or 6 weeks, I feel like it's been a crescendo building for him to now be considered in the top 10 wide receivers for the 2026 NFL draft. I probably have him as a late round 2 to somewhere middle of round 3 type talent right now. This wide receiver class, we have really seen it elevate over this year from I thought a very pedestrian wide receiver group to now I think it's the clear strength of the offensive skill positions for this class. I think running back's very weak. I think tight end is average to below average. I think quarterback is okay. And then I think the wide receiver is the strongest group by far. I think we have 3 top 15 locks, and I think a couple more will sneak into round 1 as well. And we'll have another 5 wide receivers or so go in round 1 of the 2026 NFL draft. Before we spin this to the Sunday game, I just want to share my quick thoughts. College football, this needs to be the final straw for college football in terms of their calendar. They cannot have coaches leaving their programs in late November, early December, because they got to get to their new team and then recruiting and the transfer portal. They have to sit down after the season and say, this is not good for our sport. Lane Kiffin is the coach of undefeated Ole Miss. It is his right to go to LSU, and that is fine. But it can't happen during the college football season. It can't happen during their team heading to the playoffs, a chance at the national championship. And now Ole Miss, I know their offensive coordinator is going to go back and still coach for them, but then go to LSU. It's all a big distraction for a team that could have maybe won the national title this year. I don't think that's going to happen without their head coach, with their offensive coordinator already known that he's leaving. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for this. They got to redo the calendar. They got to make strict rules that no head coaches are allowed to interview for jobs while they still have a job. If they're still playing in the college football season, you cannot be interviewed. All this interviewing stuff needs to start at the end of the college football season, or at least when your team is done playing games, whether that's after the bowl season, whether that's after the regular season. If you're not playing in the playoffs, you want to say in between that break of your season ending and your bowl game, you want to make it that they can go interview and maybe leave, fine. But if you're on the trajectory, and I don't even think that, because then it's a gray area of whether you don't know if you're going to make the playoff, whatever the case. Maybe after the playoffs are announced, then and only then is it open. And if your team is in the playoffs, you cannot interview for any jobs, and you got to wait till you're eliminated, kind of like in the NFL. They have rules in place. Whatever the case may be, this can't happen anymore. Coaches cannot leave during the college football season and abandon their team. It's such a bad look for the college game. And I understand you can say the coaches just shouldn't, but again, I'm not going to begrudge Lane Kiffin if he wants to take the LSU job. But I'm going to begrudge it for happening now. And they need to find a way to fix this system, because it is a broken system. It's too much the wild, wild west. And it's just hurting a sport that I love and a sport so many people love in college football. And there's an easy fix to it. Somebody's got to be smart about it and create this a calendar that better serves everybody, to make sure that we're not hurting the sport the way this is, in terms of the black eye this kind of puts on the sport and certain programs, and really impacts the players at Ole Miss and other places that coaches are leaving as well. It's not good it's not a good look. It's not good for the players. It's not good for the franchises. And there's an easy fix to it. And somebody's got to get, a whole bunch of people got to be smart about it and create that solution. Let's turn this to the Sunday game, and let's first talk about the NFL rookie report for week 13. Jackson Dart was back behind center for the Giants. Very few, if any, design runs. Still took a big hit on the sideline because he didn't get out of bounds. That's still going to be a topic of conversation. And in terms of fantasy, listen, I think you're going to have to worry about Jackson Dart and getting injured, getting concussed. Like, he plays like he's Josh Allen, but he does not have the size and physicality of Josh Allen. He's going to have to do a better job protecting himself. But at the same time, and I'm not going to overreact to it, because we see a guy like Patrick Mahomes, similar size and stature, it not be a thing. So Jackson Dart will learn how to be smarter about getting down, taking less hits, but I don't want to take the aggression out of him and the playmaking ability, because you even saw some of that, the play near the goal line the other night when he was moving around all the way across the field and eventually found the open receiver. That's what makes Jackson Dart special. That's what has made him stand out this year, his ability to improvise, his ability to play off structure. So I still think Jackson Dart, if he kind of finishes the year a little bit of a lull, because maybe he's not running much, no Malik Neighbors, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. To me, he'd be an aggressive buy going into his second year in terms of dynasty or fantasy, because I do think he could explode next year with the return of Malik Neighbors. Giants probably drafted another wide receiver in the early portion of the NFL draft. Hopefully a much better team and situation. I think he could easily catapult himself into the top 10 quarterbacks in terms of dynasty and fantasy. At the running back position, Kyle Monangai, 130 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles on Black Friday's game. Monangai has really looked good. I kind of brought him up before when I was talking about Katron Allen, but Kyle Monangai, I think he's now worked his way into a solid role there for the Bears moving forward. I'm not sure DeAndre Swift will be on the team next year. They'll probably draft another guy to kind of pair with Kyle Monangai, but I think what we've seen from Monangai is legit. He was a guy that a lot of people liked. I know Connor Rogers was really high on him. Other people liked him. I think in a normal year, like I said before, he would have been like a 4th round pick. He fell to like the 6th round or the 7th round because it was such an insanely deep running back draft. But he's just a no-nonsense, really good vision, patience, physical, tough runner, always picking up extra yards. To me, I would not be looking to sell high on him in the offseason. I think he's going to be a significant piece of that Bears offense moving forward, at least in like a David Montgomery type role. Maybe they want to add an explosive guy with him, and Ben Johnson wants his like Montgomery Gibbs type thing. That's fine. Even in that scenario, I still think Kyle Monangai plays the role of David Montgomery. Devin Neal got an opportunity to be the lead guy for the Saints this past week, 14 carries, 47 yards. Listen, Neal's one of those guys. Doesn't have a standout trait, but he's pretty solid across the board. It's going to be interesting to see what that Saints backfield looks like next year. Is Kamara back? Kendre Miller's coming off an injury. So I do think Neal is in a position, and it's a down running back class. I keep talking about it. Unless the Saints are drafting Jeremiah Love after a trade back or something like in round 1, I don't think it's going to be, I think Devin Neal's going to get an opportunity there to be a part of that backfield because it's a weak running back class coming out. So I think Neal's an interesting guy. If you can get him on your team now cheap, I think he has an opportunity to at least be a part of a 2-man committee there next year. Quinshon Judkins, 23 carries, 91 yards. Listen, he's going to be a bell cow. When Cleveland figures out their quarterback situation, hopefully with a top pick next year, Judkins is going to skyrocket because he's a guy who could be a workhorse back, carry the ball 20 and 25 times a game, be the guy near the goal line, can be a functional pass catcher. Sky is high on Quinshon Judkins going into year 2. RJ Harvey only had 35 yards rushing, but found the end zone twice. I think before the season's out, somewhere in the next 4 weeks, we're going to have an RJ Harvey explosion game. He's going to have, similar to that Travion Henderson game where he broke 2 big touchdowns. I think we're going to see a game where RJ Harvey gets like 14 or 15 carries, but 1 or 2 are going to be big plays. And all of a sudden, we're going to see RJ Harvey have like a 130-yard week and a touchdown, or 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think it's coming. I believe in the talent. I know Sean Payton always likes to have 2 backs, so that's a little bit concerning in terms of long-term high-end dynasty value. But I still think he's going to be an integral piece of that Broncos backfield moving forward. And he could be a guy who could definitely be a mid to low RB2 at worst, with a ceiling to even be higher than that moving forward. If we take this to the wide receivers, if Amon-Ra St. Brown misses action on Thursday night against the Cowboys, I am really excited to see Isaac Tesla play an entire game's worth of snaps. He scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving. He has like 8 receptions in his like whole career in terms of preseason and NFL season, and a whole bunch of them went for touchdowns. All the guy does is catch touchdowns. Big time athlete, great ball skills. I want to see him play, the majority, 80% of the offensive snaps on Thursday night if Amon-Ra is unable to go. I'm excited to see Tesla. I know it's hard to think long-term, what is his dynasty value? Because they have Laporta locked up. They have Amon-Ra locked up. They're going to lock up Gibbs. They locked up Jamison Williams. But if he warrants, he could easily emerge to be their clear 3rd wide receiver, maybe their 5th overall option. But interested to kind of see him get a more sustained opportunity. We know they obviously loved him based on the trade they made last year to get him. So I'm interested to kind of see what his ceiling is moving forward. And this might be a week we finally get to see an opportunity for him to play a lot. Luther Burden, I'm going to keep saying it. Buy now, buy now, buy now. He hasn't put up a great statistical week, but the tide has shifted as him being their slot wide receiver. I think it's just a matter of when, not if, he explodes. If he doesn't have that explosion during the home stretch of this season, then even better. He might even be able to aggressively buy him more before in the offseason for next year. So Burden, super high on my radar. He's going to be one of my number one dynasty buys in the offseason. Jaden Higgins got a bigger opportunity this week, 5 catches, 65 yards. He is slowly morphed into a guy who's getting more looks now after Nico Collins. It took a while. The veterans kind of kept the young guys, Higgins and Jalen Noel, away from seeing a lot of reps. But I think Higgins could be a really good, solid, real-life wide receiver too in fantasy, unless CJ Stroud starts playing like that rookie year Stroud. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of consistent fantasy value if Nico's there, but he could be a guy that could be a wide receiver 4 or 5. And then if Stroud can get back to what he was, maybe we could see him carry Higgins up to even a higher level of fantasy production. Let's spin this and close out the night with a Dynasty Fantasy Report. A couple guys that I want to talk about. So here's some buys, and I'll start at the running back position. I'm going to say buy Blake Corum and buy Chuba Hubbard. Let's start with Chuba Hubbard. Now, he was already on my list before the game that he had this past week. But again, Rico Dowdle signed a 1-year contract. We have no idea what Jonathan Brooks is going to be back like next year if he's able to ever get back to his old self. They signed Hubbard to be the guy there for a couple years. I don't think they're going to give Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle's going to get paid after what he did in the middle of the year and it being a weak running back draft. Someone's going to give Rico Dowdle an opportunity and pay him more than I think Carolina is going to pay another running back who's not a top-tier running back. They already are giving decent money to Chuba Hubbard. They probably want to see what Jonathan Brooks has in the left after the second ACL injury. They drafted Trevor Etienne last year. I don't think Rico Dowdle is going to be back next year. So I think right now, Hubbard still looked as like second behind Rico, or maybe people are like, listen, they benched him this year. Listen, that was because Rico Dowdle was on a massive tear. I think if you could buy Chuba Hubbard right now, or if Dowdle kind of leads the way the rest of the year, right after the season ends, you got to do it before free agency. I would do it the sooner the better, because I think once Dowdle leaves, Hubbard's value goes back to what it was before the Rico Dowdle explosion. And I think Chuba could be a solid low RB2 next year, and he is not being valued like that in Dynasty right now. Blake Corum, we are seeing him get more work. Now listen, Kyren Williams is still young, signed the contract extension, so he's going to be the guy. But we see enough teams out there that 2 guys, the Rams run a lot of plays. They're very efficient. There's enough where Corum could be a productive player, even alongside Kyren Williams, and then also be a league winner if Kyren Williams ever misses time. And who's to say a year from now, middle of next season, that Corum doesn't start legitimately taking the opportunity and Kyren Williams goes back a little bit and starts giving up looks to a better Blake Corum. I don't think that's out of realm of possibility. We know Blake Corum was a highly regarded prospect coming out. We know Kyren Williams was not a highly regarded prospect coming out, mostly because he tested really poorly. He was a great college player. So I think Blake Corum could offer value as a depth piece on your fantasy team and a guy who could be a spot starter or a flex play when needed, even as a second person in that backfield, but could also be an opportunity where he could seize the moment. He could jump ahead of Kyren Williams if Kyren Williams gets hurt and Corum gets a bigger, opportunity, or if Kyren's just struggling and Blake Corum looks better. I don't think they would be so reluctant to give Blake Corum. They invested a pick on him pretty high in the draft last year. I think opportunity now to still buy low on Blake Corum. A couple other guys I would say buy low on. At the wide receiver position, handful of names here. Ricky Pearsall, A.D. Mitchell, Devonta Smith. Sorry, Ricky Pearsall. He has really not produced since he's gotten back from injury, but let's not lose sight of the fact that in the beginning of the year, he was playing unbelievable, and he was top 5 in yards for wide receivers. So Ricky Pearsall, slow getting back into the groove of things. I would use it as an opportunity to buy low on him right now, especially if we see him struggle down the stretch of this year. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown has exploded a little bit recently. I think it's a great time to buy Devonta Smith. I don't think A.J. Brown's going to be on the Eagles next year. I think there's too much tension there. Unless the Eagles go on to win the Super Bowl, and I don't think that's happening this year, I think they're going to move off of A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith is going to step up to be the lead wide receiver on that team, and then that increases his dynasty value and his fantasy value by a lot. And right now, you're not paying that value for him. You're paying for him to be the second guy behind A.J. Brown. But I think by the beginning of the offseason, I think A.J. Brown is dealt, and Devonta Smith moves up the pecking order. By A.D. Mitchell, listen, we know he has a world of talent. I think the Jets are going to give him a real opportunity to seize the moment. And I still think a lot of people are down on him overall. I know he had a good week this past week, but that's one good week. I think you could still buy A.D. Mitchell relatively low. I'll say stock up on Devontae Vele. We know that they gave up a lot for him, the Saints, this past week. 8 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Listen, I'm not going to be aggressive to go buy Vele, but they did give up a lot. I do think they look at him as a guy who could be their starter alongside Chris Olave. So I think stock up on him. At the tight end position, 2 names I want to say stock up. And I have no sells this week, just guys that I think I'm higher on right now and I would try to buy. Right before I came on air, Mark Andrews signed the contract extension with the Ravens. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought they were going to keep Isaiah Likely. Now Isaiah Likely enters free agency. There is no way the Ravens just gave Mark Andrews a contract extension with $26 million guaranteed, and then they're going to go give Isaiah Likely a contract. He's going to want an opportunity to go somewhere where he can be the starter and the lead pass catching tight end option. So I think Isaiah Likely is going to go to a new team. I think a team is going to look at him and see the production he could have this past Thanksgiving. 5 catches, 65 yards. We've seen him have big weeks. I think they're going to look at Likely as a guy that could be their starter, and the team's going to pay him handsomely in free agency. Go buy him now when he's not looked at like that in terms of the dynasty. And then Darnell Washington. Listen, once upon a time, we thought he was going to be a first-round pick. He fell in that draft class. Physical freak, great blocker, and that's mostly been what he's asked to do. But they've started to incorporate him into the pass game, and he is hard to defend and hard to take down. I think in deep tight end leagues, 2 tight end leagues, tight end premium leagues, deep rosters, Darnell Washington is a guy I kind of want to stash. I know Freiermuth's locked up. I know Jonas Smith's locked up. Things can change fast. They could trade one of them and then go with 2 of them. And all of a sudden, Darnell Washington gets a real opportunity next year. So I would be interested to kind of see how this Darnell Washington mini breakout continues to go in terms of playing time and opportunity, a lot more now than we've seen in the past. So there it is, guys, the Dynasty Fantasy Report and the NFL Rookie Report for Week 13 of the NFL season, NFL Draft Report for Week 14. If you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, S2S Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. For $9.99, you get access to all of our premium notebooks. Please consider purchasing it. If you bought it in the past, please consider buying it again. If you've never purchased it, please consider purchasing it to try to help us out. It is the lifeblood of what we continue to do here each and every season here at Saturday to Sunday. I see some people in the chat. Jaquan, thank you as always. Always love to see you in the chat and watching the shows. For everybody else watching, thank you so much. And I look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.